there is a system set up to ensure that we're protected, but often we don't want to do what's necessary to allow that system to work for us. We want to be uncovered, because being covered means having to abide by certain rules that we might not want to abide by. So again, we want the privileges that patriarchy is supposed to provide, the protection and the provision, but we don't want to have to do the things that patriarchy requires. And because often for us, those things look like control. Some of those things present to us like control. We don't want to be controlled. We want to be independent. We want to do what we want to do. We're in a situation as a society where most modern women don't understand feminism, because feminism means everything. And as a result of it meaning everything, it means nothing. Do I want to be the black woman who makes content that every black woman can agree with, that every feminist can agree with? Or do I want to be the black woman, the YouTuber, who is a thought leader, who, regardless of whether people agree or disagree, I'm giving them a different way to think, and I'm giving them something else to chew on? And it can be a little anxiety inducing to put out ideas into the world, topics that most modern women don't even want to touch. In fact, anytime you bring up patriarchy, everyone gets silent, or patriarchy just never comes up. But when it does come up, it's in the context of what? College, your women's studies courses. The first time, we probably can all remember the first time we heard about bell hooks, or we read a bell hooks book. And for me, how intrigued I was that there was a black woman in the world who was speaking this way and challenging the system. But and you guys know I'm a fan of bell hooks, and the reason why I'm a fan of bell hooks is because bell hooks, to me, was for the most part pretty true to what she said, is that she was a feminist. She wasn't a fake feminist. She wasn't a feminist when she felt like being a feminist. And in fact, she actually challenged not only feminism, but she challenged certain feminist women like Beyonce, who said that she was feminist. Bell Hooks was the only woman to challenge Beyonce on that. I have a lot of respect for Bell Hooks for that. And Bell Hooks is no longer with us. But I am in what I call my patriarchal era. And by that, it doesn't mean that I'm just in the streets embracing patriarchy, but it means that I am in an era of trying to understand patriarchy. And some of this is fueled by recently being married and trying to understand the system, not only the system of marriage historically and what it is now, but also not only because a lot of times when we talk about patriarchy, we're talking about it in a systemic way, which, because we live in a patriarchal society, we're talking about it up here, and we never really talk about what patriarchy means to us personally and individually. In the home, what does it look like? What does it actually look like to have a patriarchal led home? For all the Christians out there who say you believe that you're supposed to submit and you believe that the man is supposed to be the head of the household, well, what does that look like in the home? We're having a lot of conversations about gender roles, right? But again, let's go back to the sort of the root of a lot of this is this system, patriarchy, and then the feminism that rose as a result of trying to fight the patriarchy. Patriarchy to us means something bad. And to be clear, I understand that patriarchy has harmed women. There's countless stories of women today, as and in the past, who have been abused, who have been mistreated by men because for whatever reason, and I can understand the general sentiment around why patriarchy is framed as bad, but we as women often don't want to acknowledge how there are things that we benefit from as it relates to patriarchy. And you say, well, Nika, what are you talking about? How in the world do women benefit from patriarchy? Well, I'm talking about all the jobs that we don't want to do. I'm talking about when we have babies, and we want to take a year, 2 years off of work. So my challenge to all of us is let's take a few steps back. Do we even understand patriarchy as a system outside of the bell hooks framing of the white male patriarchal society, or whatever she used to say? Do we understand it in practice, or do we only understand patriarchy in theory? And then what does it look like in the household? How are we interacting with patriarchy and men and fathers and our brothers and our cousins and our uncles? How are we interacting with them on a day-to-day? And is that interaction negative? Or because if it's not, then perhaps we need to revisit this framing as patriarchy is 100% bad. Maybe we should be saying that patriarchy is complicated or complex. I'm not sure if the framing should be patriarchy is 100% bad. Because if you're going to say that, then we're going to have to look at feminism. And just like with patriarchy, I see the good and the bad. With feminism, I see the good and the bad. You say, well, Nika, how is feminism bad? Well, let's talk about, feminism is good when, of course, we have, as women, we can vote. We can, have jobs. We have bank accounts. We have all those rights. But the flip side to feminism, and I've talked a lot about this on the channel, is having to go to work when we just had a baby. Having to go to work when we have our period, some of us. being tired, being exhausted, and still having to work 2 and 3 jobs because we were told to be single and independent. Having to put our kids in daycare when we don't want to. Some of us don't want to put our kids in daycare, but we have to because we were told to be a woman, a productive member of society, that is, you have to immediately go back to work. And many of us are too afraid to trust a man to support us, even and when I say a man, I mean, in the context of marriage. If you had a baby and you're not working, you're going to have to lean on who? Your husband to support you during that, to support the family. And a lot of us are too afraid to even be vulnerable enough to allow that. So we go to work. We work 2 and 3 jobs. We exhaust ourselves. We, as a result, our health starts to decline because you're working 2 and 3 jobs. That means you might not be in the gym. You might not be eating healthy with those 2-3 jobs, and your health is declining and you're stressed out. And what we're seeing now is like entire movements of Black women exiling from the United States and from work and going to other countries and needing a sabbatical, when this is all under the guise of feminism. This is all what women said they wanted. You wanted this, and now you have it and you can't handle it. So again, let's look at patriarchy, because I'm just not convinced that feminism is all good and patriarchy is all bad. I think there are pros and cons to both. So like, share, and subscribe. Click the links in the description box to learn more about my business, Curated Legacy LLC. Become a channel member to get access to exclusive videos. I have now uploaded 20 additional videos for channel members. And don't forget to purchase my memoir of being an invisible Black woman on Amazon. And as always, stay tuned for more videos.